Hey everybody, it's the boss lady here. I'm getting ready to go to the University of St. Thomas college tour. So we are outside. It is kind of sprinkling. Hopefully we won't have to be outside too long. Miss Peanut wants y'all to see the statues. This is the pollinator path. Super cool. You guys seen this school before though. We did record this place already. Refreshments. Oh my god. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, they got cookies. They got hummus and dip and all kinds of stuff. Alrighty.
am one of the assistant directors of financial aid here at the University of St. Thomas. I'm joined by Scott Meyer, also assistant director of financial aid. Today we're going to be talking about a really important part of the college search process, which is how are you going to pay for it? And I'm glad that you're all here today and realize that this is going to be an important part of kind of your individual college search. Before we get into the actual dollars and cents of everything, I always like to start off just kind of talking about why St. Thomas might be a good choice for you in particular. So one of the things that St. Thomas can really offer well is a good quality, strong education. So one of the things that you notice right off the bat is that all of our class sizes are smaller, on average 19 students in a classroom. So that means that you're going to have really one-on-one interactions with your professors. 100% of our classes are taught directly by the expert in the field, so you're not working through a TA, a teacher's assistant, you're working directly with that professor and kind of building those relationships, which we really value, and I think the students that choose St. Thomas value as well. Students, especially on the science side, will complete graduate level research before they graduate from their undergraduate degree, and that looks really great on medical school or other graduate school applications. 71% of our students also have real-world internships before they leave St. Thomas, so that's really important for building resumes as well too. And then also we're nationally ranked in many areas, but including business, computer science, and engineering too. And as far as kind of the next step, so that talks about students' time when they're here, but also after they graduate. St. Thomas has shown to be a really good return on a student's investment. So 97% of our students have full-time employment or are full-time graduate school or in long-term volunteering or military service 6 months after graduation. 61% of our students actually have a starting salary of $55,000 or above. And then 80% of the top public companies in Minnesota will actually recruit directly from our campus. So lots of great job opportunities, job placement for our students. So again, just the college decision is not just about return on investments, but that is a big part of it, even more and more now as college costs across the country go up. You want to make sure that it's going to pay off for you in the long run too. So we'll jump right in with the costs. So these are our costs for this current school year that we're in right now. So tuition, so all the students' classes, the required fees, which is basically all of the fun events and everything on campus, the facilities that you'll see on the tour today, technology on campus, those types of things. Residence hall and meal plan, so all the costs kind of all in, and then also the bottom number there would be including things like books, personal expenses, travel expenses, things like that. So this is the cost, and I want to stress this is the cost before any scholarships and other types of financial aid. It's mostly zero students that will actually pay that $69,000 and some odd dollars. Almost every student at St. Thomas is qualifying for some sort of financial aid to help bring those costs down to a more affordable level. And that's something that we really value at St. Thomas, is trying to make our education as affordable as possible for families. So we'll kind of go into how we're going to do that. I think it helps though whenever we're talking about financial aid to kind of define some things and to give a good idea of what these things actually mean. So financial aid in general, a lot of folks can have kind of a misunderstanding what financial aid means. Some people think that it means just loans. A lot of students say like, well, I'm not going to do financial aid because I don't want any loans. Financial aid isn't just loans. There's a lot of other types along with that. Some people will say, well, I applied for financial aid, shouldn't everything be covered? That's not the case either. We'll kind of go into how that works as well too. Really, when you get down to it, what the term financial aid means is that any money that a student receives to help pay for their college expenses. So that comes into two main camps. We're kind of going to go into everything individually, but I'll just kind of give a brief overview of those. So gift aid is the first camp. Gift aid is money that's given to the student. Self-help is going to be money that a student either earns or they're going to pay back later in life. So those will come through scholarships and grants for gift aid, and then self-help would be work study or loans. So with gift aid, the first type that people think about would be scholarships, and that's generally the first thing that students are often applying for in the process. So scholarships, when we use that term at St. Thomas, what we mean is generally it's going to be something that's merit-based, something that's in the student's background. that they're receiving a scholarship to reward. So merit, when I use that term, we're looking at academic based, so students' academic performance in high school. It could also be talent, so whether that's athletic or within the arts. So scholarships are generally going to be based off of something in a student's background, and primarily with St. Thomas it's going to be academic background. A grant, on the other hand, is going to be something that's need-based, so it's going to be something that looks at the family's ability to pay and awards those gift aid dollars, the money given to a student based off of that ability to pay. So that grants can come from federal government, they can come from the state government too, and then St. Thomas, we also have our own need-based grants too that we award based off of that. So gift aid is where we start, that's where you want to start because that's the money that's going to be given to you. There's also self-help, and self-help is going to be money that you either work a job for or you pay back later in life. So working a job would be student employment. Another term for this is work study. We'll use those kind of interchangeably. We actually allow all students to work on campus at St. Thomas, so you don't even have to file the FAFSA form. If you want to work a job on campus, we'll allow you to do that. Work study is also the only type of financial aid that you can choose how you receive it, so you can use it towards your tuition expenses, but you can also just use it for those your own personal costs as well. Loans, on the other hand, would be money that you would borrow now in order to pay for your costs now that you're going to pay back later in life with those future earnings. So loans can come from the federal government and the federal direct loan program. They can also come for, specifically parents can borrow a federal loan called the Parent Plus loan. And there's also private loans, private companies that will lend to students with a cosigner. So those are all options for helping cover the remaining amount after the rest of the student's financial aid award. So jumping back to scholarships, the St. Thomas Scholarship, this is the name that we have for the scholarship that most students that are admitted to St. Thomas receive. So the St. Thomas Scholarship ranges anywhere from $20,000 up to $32,500 per year. I don't like to use the word automatic, but there's no separate application for the St. Thomas Scholarship. So your only application for this scholarship would be just applying for admission. So any student that applies for admission is automatically considered for a St. Thomas Scholarship. And like I said, most students receive one. St. Thomas Scholarship primarily is based off of all of the information that you tell us about yourself in the application for admission. So we'll look at your high school transcript, we'll look at what classes you've taken and what your grades were. We will look at test scores if you send them to us. They are optional, so ACT, SAT test scores. What I normally say is if you feel like it's a good representation of you, definitely send that. We want to look at it. If you're less sure of that, talk to your admission counselor and they can give you a better idea of whether or not you should submit your test score. But we also look at everything that you're involved in, everything that you tell us about on your application to determine that St. Thomas Scholarship. Whatever you're awarded as an incoming freshman, you'll receive each of your 4 years that you're at St. Thomas as well too. You just have to be a full-time student every semester and then keep at least a 2.0 grade point average. So this isn't the only scholarship that's available, but it's kind of that first step in the process and what you'll find out likely first about through this financial aid process. There are additional scholarship opportunities beyond that St. Thomas Scholarship. This is a good link to either take a picture of or write down. So this will take you to our scholarships page that we have, which is actually a really cool website where you can sort it by that you're an incoming student. If you are interested in business or engineering, you can sort it specifically to those scholarships that are available. So I definitely encourage you to do that. Deadlines come up as soon as December 15th. But we have scholarships in all different areas. I mentioned business and engineering. We have also science and math. We have scholarships for Catholic studies and for music. So there's all different types of scholarships that students can be eligible for. They're all competitive. So you do have to apply, and some of them will have additional steps as well beyond the application. But it's a really good idea to start looking at these things early, because again, I believe it's the Science, Math, and Engineering Scholarship that has a deadline of December 15th, and they all kind of come up quickly after that, so it's a really good thing to start looking at doing now. And then we do have scholarships that are available for current students, so even if you don't receive one of these on the incoming process, many of the academic departments will have scholarship opportunities in the future as well too. And the last thing I'll talk about before I hand it over to Scott would be outside scholarships. So outside scholarships, when we use that term, that means any scholarship that you receive from an outside organization that you would bring into St. Thomas. We don't reduce our scholarship money for outside scholarships, so this will stack on top of that St. Thomas scholarship that we talked about. So these are all great organizations to check out as far as applying for outside scholarships. So your high school, your guidance counselor can be a great resource for searching for those. Places of worship, local businesses. I always tell students that if you are working, check with your employer to see if they have any scholarship opportunities. Parents, sometimes your employer will offer scholarships for children of employees. So all great options that way. We even do matching scholarships if your high school works with the Dollars for Scholars program. So definitely check those out. So another great reason to talk to your guidance counselor. But St. Thomas students do a really good job at bringing in outside scholarships. We generally have over $3 million of outside scholarship funds that come in, and they just help to bring down your costs. So it's definitely worth your time. So, as far as when you're doing these applications, I encourage you to, apply for admission if you haven't already, if you're a senior, and then check out our scholarships, but then make sure that you're doing these things as well too. There's also a lot of great online searches too, but the closer that you search to home, like your high school, like your church, that type of thing, the more likely you are to get an outside scholarship like that. And with that, I'll hand it over to Scott, who will talk about grants.
Thanks. Good afternoon. So we're going to switch gears just a little bit and talk now about grants. And as Neil kind of indicated earlier on, grants are something that we would refer to as these are the free monies that students can receive, but it's not based on merit. Grants are usually based on some form of a financial evaluation, and we'll talk about the tool that we use in a minute, the FAFSA. So grants are a little different than scholarships in that grants, especially the federal grants, and if you're a Minnesota resident, the state of Minnesota grant program are based on a pretty strict level of eligibility rules and demonstrated financial needs. So that's all kind of part of those. St. Thomas also offers, we have our own need-based grant dollars, and those we are generally looking at. We kind of are targeting those for more kind of students who are kind of from middle income families where the lower income students are pretty well served with the federal Pell Grant program and with the Minnesota State Grant program, but our students who are kind of in the middle are usually a little better served actually with our own need-based grant dollars. So we kind of look at all of that, and again, we're looking at those for students when they complete the free application for federal student aid. We're going to come back and talk about the FAFSA here in just a little bit. There are, as Neil indicated, there are several types of borrowing options that are available for undergraduate students. I will tell you up front that when first year students come to St. Thomas and they have completed the federal aid application, the FAFSA, students are automatically eligible to borrow up to $5,500 from the federal direct loan program. The $5,500 loan limit does not exclude any income level, so students and families, regardless of family income, regardless of whether or not the student has a summer job or they've saved up money, none of that really matters. All undergraduate students are eligible to borrow a certain level each year. First year students are eligible to borrow $5,500. That's the absolute loan limit. Now, there are other loan programs that students can also apply for that are based on credit and having a credit-worthy cosigner. We call those private loans, and those loans can often be used to kind of fill in the gap if that's necessary. So, but with the federal loan programs, the student is eligible to borrow up to $5,500. Within that $5,500, the loan will be either partially subsidized and unsubsidized, or fully unsubsidized. So they can be a mix. And basically, the difference between a subsidized loan and an unsubsidized loan is who is responsible for the interest while the student's in school. With a subsidized loan, the federal government actually pays it on behalf of the student. With the unsubsidized loan, of course, there's no interest subsidy. Interest rates are still fairly low for federal student loans. They're at 5.5 for this current academic year, which is certainly competitive, in line with where other consumer loans have kind of gravitated to over the last couple of years. When students borrow from the federal loan programs, they are not required to make payments while they're in school. and they also get a 6-month grace period after they graduate. So the loans really require no payments for that whole time that they're in school, and then for the 6-month grace period afterwards. And at that point, the loans go into a repayment schedule that can go up to 10 years. There's no prepayment penalties associated with any of the federal loan programs, and actually most private loan programs are like that too. So if you want to pay them off in a big lump sum soon after graduation, you're welcome to do that. Students and families are even welcome to make payments on their loans while they're in school. So however you want to manage that financing option, you can definitely do that. We like talking about work study here at the University of St. Thomas. We're very entrepreneurial that way. We allow, as Neil indicated, we allow all of our undergraduate students the opportunity to seek and secure on-campus employment. We are within the realm of the city of St. Paul, which means that our minimum wage is $15 an hour on campus. So if you're coming in from the outstate area where minimum wage levels might be a little bit less, we're at $15 an hour here in St. Paul. Students, there's a wide variety of jobs on campus. At any given point in the school year, we probably have about anywhere from between 1,400 maybe 1,600 to 1,700 undergraduate students who are actually working on campus. So we have a lot of our students work. And as Neil indicated earlier, students can use those monies and just have their earnings applied against their tuition bill every payday, or they can retain those as a paycheck, and it's their money for spending or covering their rent or whatever if they're living off campus later on. So students have a lot of flexibility there. It's not just washing dishes or picking up towels in the locker rooms or putting books away in the library. There's a lot of jobs on campus that involve tutoring, different research programs, and also there are actually some paid on-campus internships that are paid through the work study program. So lots of different opportunities and ways for students to help offset some of their costs here at the university by working on campus. So we always really encourage that. We get to talk about the FAFSA. The FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, is the gateway and the portal, I guess, that students enter into and complete the application so that we can consider them for any form of need-based financial aid, which includes the grants we just talked about. It includes the federal student loan programs that we just talked about. And there's also some need-based work study allowances that students can be awarded when they complete the FAFSA application. Anybody here have already done the FAFSA for older students, for older children? Okay, good. So I'm here to tell you the FAFSA is going to be a little bit different this year. A couple of things. First of all, it's not actually available yet. Normally, the FAFSA is available starting on October the 1st for the next school year. However, the FAFSA is going through a kind of a big change this year. They're kind of changing the format of it and the layout a little bit. The Department of Ed has gone through and taken a lot of the questions out of the FAFSA and tried to simplify the process as much as they possibly can. They're trying to make it easier for people to do and get through. So this year, the FAFSA will automatically bring your income information over from the IRS from 2022. You don't have to, there's not a separate process where you have to log out and go log into the IRS and then go back and forth. It just automatically brings everything in. So it's kind of streamlined that way, so it's going to be really nice. Again, the FAFSA is for the coming school year is based on your 2022 income information. So we're going to circle back to that in a minute. Our federal school code, for those, if you're wanting to know that, that's probably the big important thing here, is down here at the bottom in the lower left-hand corner, 002345 is our federal school code. Just some of the things that are changing. So we don't actually know when it's going to become available. I know we're kind of silly standing here, but we don't actually know the exact date. The Department of Ed has not released that yet. We know they've told us that it's going to be sometime in December, and hopefully that doesn't mean December 31st. Hopefully that means somewhere in the earlier or middle part of the month. As I said, the FAFSA is going to have fewer questions. They are going to be, you're basically going to have to consent to bring your information over from the IRS, and there's a data exchange now, which is different than the data transfer that happened before. I know it's just a couple of different words, but There were some big regulatory and statutory changes that changed how that information goes back and forth. For those of you who have maybe heard things about the expected family contribution that gets calculated with the FAFSA, the EFC, that is going away. It's being replaced by a new index called the Student Aid Index. The FAFSA is no longer going to be asking about or taking into consideration, because I think they're still going to ask it for demographic reasons, but the FAFSA is no longer going to take into account the number of students you have in college. They've made some other formulary changes to kind of compensate for that, so they're taking that out of the process, and they've made some changes to how certain businesses and farms have to report their assets. So those are kind of the big highlights in terms of the changes to the FAFSA for the 24-25 school year. We do have a process for looking at special circumstances. We always want people to know that. Our special circumstance process essentially allows you to tell us what anything has changed. We know what happened in 2022, that's kind of in the book, so to speak, but it's people's situations can change, and so from that respect, we have a process where we can collect information about 2023 and look at that. So if you have special circumstances, we want to know about those. The feds don't have a way for you to do that, but we as an institution do. So we can definitely look at those kinds of things. The big takeaway here is that there's all kinds of resources. Neil showed some big scary numbers toward the beginning, but with the scholarship money that we provide and with the resources that are available for students through the federal aid application process and other outside scholarships, there's a lot of ways to bring the overall cost down here at St. Thomas quite a bit. Just a real quick timeline very quickly. November 1 is coming up. That's our early action deadline for our admissions program. So if you want to be in on that, on the early action deadline, that's coming up November 1st. The FAFSA is going to become available sometime in December. In the middle of December, we are going to start notifying students of the merit scholarship that they're eligible for based on their admission application. So that'll be coming out in mid-December. We will hopefully start going out with the full financial aid packages or financial aid award packages, and we're going to start that hopefully in February as we have the FAFSA information and we've got students admitted, and then you'll have the whole spring to work with us up to the May 1st date. Last thing we want everybody knows that we assign a personal financial aid counselor to all of our prospective and current students. You're welcome to meet with any one of us, but you are assigned a personal financial aid counselor within the financial aid office here at St. Thomas, which is nice. When you want to talk about special circumstances, you don't have to keep retelling your story all the time. You're always working with the same person, and so we offer that service. And with that, I think we have time maybe for one question or two questions maybe. Yes, sir.